Hi everyone, it's Tonya Gibbs and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to teach you a mixed media card tutorial. This is an Yvonne Blair Art Girls project. These are the two cards that I am going to demonstrate today. We're just going to teach one card, but it'll be techniques that can be shared for both. These are the stamps that I'll be using that are from Yvonne Blair. All of these stamps are available online at Impression Obsession Stamps, but also check with your local stamp retail stores. If they do not carry them, then please ask them to carry them in their stores. Details will be in an accompanying blog post that can be found in the links in the description box down below. So let's go ahead and get started with today's tutorial. I have pre-cut a piece of 110-pound cardstock to 4 inches by 5¼ inches, and I'm using a standard palette of watercolors that you can find in any department store. I'm just going to use one of the green values there and add a little bit of the green there horizontally across the middle of my paper, and then I'm adding a little bit of water there in the middle so that it can very organically begin to wick out across my paper horizontally. I do not want this to end up in the negative areas in the top and the bottom. I want this to stay right in the center of my cardstock. I want the color to be the background for my flowers and really provide a nice organic background. I'm building in this area with yellow and blue, and I want this to stay very watercolor and very organic. I'm just building in layers of color. This is only going to provide a nice background layer. I don't want to fill in too much detail here. I want it to stay very loose. Once this is completely dry, I'm then going to take the hot pink and then just flick in spots of color. This is going to provide a bokeh type effect, and it's going to serve as some nice little buds for some other flowers in my background. This next technique is going to be a great scrap buster. So I'm going to encourage you to go into that scrap pile, find some white or even off-white or yellow cardstock, and go ahead and use that up for some of these other stamps that you have. So I'm going to take this scribble stamp that has this daisy scribbled flower on it, and because I'm using the Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft Stamper Big Brush Artist Pen, I did not stamp very well there in the center, and so I'm just going to scribble some of that design back on in the center there. The color that I'm using here is cadmium yellow number 107, and then for the center of my daisy, I'm using the Caput Mortium number 169, and I'm just adding that as with a dot. Now, these markers on an unprepped surface like this cardstock go on as markers, and they're permanent, so I don't have to worry about the water bleeding these out or causing these to wick in any way. So they're really nice to work with watercolors. Now I'm going to go back over the top with my watercolor markers and add some nice yellow to fill in the daisy, and then I came back in and built out a little bit of a darker shade yellow, and I'm adding that around just to give a little bit of depth to my daisy and do a little bit of shadowing. This gives a little more interest to them and makes them not look so flat. So I'm going to get that good and dry. Now the nice thing is this surface has now become a prep surface, so if I choose to, I can take that exact same marker and scribble on it to give it a little bit of depth. But instead, I'm just going to take the tip of that marker and flick some color in to give that scribbled look one more time, but it's also going to give a little bit of interest there around the edges of my daisy. Anywhere I did not fill in after I fussy cut out and I'm seeing some white edges, all I have to do is take that marker and go back and color in around those edges to get rid of the white of the cardstock. And then of course I just put in a few more dots just to add a few more little textury pieces. So this stamp is the sketch twig, and I am using the chromium green opaque number 174 on this, and I'm going to add a little texture to this area, and it's going to give some depth to my floral area on my card. So this is going to make it look even more like a floral swag. And I love the stamp. I've used it in several of my projects in the past. So if you're looking for just a really good go-to stamp to have in your collection, I believe this would be the one to have. I've used it in several of my projects. So as you can see, I've made several of these daisies, and I think this is one of those projects you just do in front of the TV, and you just, make a whole collection of these. Like I said, it's a great opportunity for a scrap buster. If you've just got a bunch of little white scraps laying around, just make up a whole collection of these daisies. You can never have too many of these types of cards just laying around, and these are great ways to use some scraps. So some of these daisies, when I glue them down, I'm just going to use them flat up against the card, and then some of them I'm going to add foam tape to the back. This is going to give them some depth. Of course, if you wanted to mail these and wanted to keep the card really flat, by all means go ahead and just lay all of them flat against the surface and don't add the foam tape. So as you can see, adding that little bit of watercolor to the back really fills in those negative spaces very nicely on my card. I felt as though the flowers on my card base here were just sort of free floating, and they needed to be grounded. So I'm grabbing out the scribble flower, and I'm going to paint the leaf portion of the flower only. I'm going to stamp that onto my card base. Now on my watercolor palette, I did not have a green that really matched my flowers, so I am going to use my Stampers Big Brush Artist pens to color up these flowers to keep the marker from looking like a marker but more like a watercolor palette. I am going to use the water here and then color in with the marker. The color that I'm using here is the May Green number 170, and then as you can see, by using water first, then coloring over it, and then going back over it with water again to blend it out, it really does take on the look of watercolor. The water keeps the pigment irregular, so that's what I really like about this. So after I fussy cut it out and I've bent the leaves so that they are a little closer together in relationship and start tucking it in around my flowers, you can really see how that helps to ground those daisies and really helps to give it a really nice presence here on my card. Now it's time to work on my sentiment. This sentiment came from the Everyday Quotes 2 set from Yvonne. This was her recent release, and it's such a great value. This sentiment has several on it. This particular one says, "It's a great day to have a great day." And I love this quote because it's fantastic, because this card could now become a thank you card, an encouragement card, a happy birthday card. So I love that I can stamp this on the front, and then on the inside, when I get ready to give the card away, I can add happy birthday or whatever to the inside, or thank you, or whatever it is I plan to do. So I am going to go ahead and heat emboss this with gold embossing powder. I like to use gold. Gold is very trendy right now, and the gold is going to add a little bit of sparkle here to the top. I also like that the sentiment is long and skinny, because I can add it to a long banner, or it's not too bulky, so I can definitely put the focus back on my floral spray, where I've added most of my time and energy on this card. So I'm just going to attach it to my card base with a little bit of ATG tape. I want to make sure that I'm adding adhesive all the way to the edge. I've decided to pull the blue from the bottom up by adding my card base with a really bright blue on this particular card. Now I've done the exact same techniques on a second card, but I've used a top folding card on this one instead of a landscape card. And in this instance, I've gone back to the center of all of my daisies, and I'm using a Versa pen to add a little bit of Versa ink there to the center of all of my daisies. And now I'm going to go back with the gold embossing powder and add that to the center of those daisies as well. Both of these cards are identical. The only difference is that one is a top folding card and the other is a well, they're both top folding cards, but one is landscape and one is portrait. And this just gives me a little variety. Like I said, this project was, I wanted to make several cards with identical theme in mind so that I could go through all of my scraps and just really knock out a bunch of cards using some scraps. I also wanted to get rid of a lot of colored cardstock that I just had laying around in my stash, and this is a fantastic way to use up all of that random colored cardstock that you have in your stash. This was a stash busting project for me. So here are my two cards, and I just love that the center of these daisies have that foil. Look at how that made them pop. These products, like I said, are absolutely fun to do. Here's what the inside of my cards look like. This one I kept really simple, happy birthday. And then on the second card, I added a little more of the pink splatters to make the foliage look a little more fun. And then I had the idea to write on a curve on the inside of this one, and I absolutely love that idea as well. So here are the two cards side by side. So fun. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to go check out the blog post that accompanies this for more photos. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and share this project with a friend. And also, if you decide to do any of the projects that I've shared with you today or these techniques, hashtag following Tonya Gibbs so that I can see what you guys have created based on what we have taught you here today. I just love it when you share your projects with me. Thanks a lot, guys.